Something I've seen a lot in online communities and forums with photography are people asking how do they get better. I think it's something we've all dealt with, particularly nowadays, where if you're starting out, you're just bombarded with people who are taking amazing photos. Today I want to showcase some advice and some tips and tricks that I felt genuinely made me better at photography. Time on task. Anyone who's ever studied education will tell you that this is probably the most important thing when you're trying to learn a skill. I mean, it sounds kind of obvious. If I want to get better at guitar, playing guitar more will help me get better. And photography is no different. That's why I'm a big fan of smaller cameras that you can just take everywhere with you. I'm going to talk about everyday carry cameras in a bit, but before I do that, I want to talk about a challenge I did last year. So I called it 3 photos, 1 lens. Here is what the setup was. It's the Lumix 25mm f1.7 on a pretty small body. This is the Olympus EM5 Mark II. I challenged myself to go out every day for a month and take 3 photos with this lens and this camera. And I would post those images. This added a bit of a challenge because I wanted to make sure the images were good and I didn't want to just post the same thing over and over. Doing this challenge helped me in 3 ways, funnily enough. It helped me get better at composing using this focal length. It helped me get better at operating this camera body, and if you know Olympus camera bodies, you know that they're not exactly the most intuitive thing when you first get one. And it also helped me find common subjects interesting. I recently got myself a new camera. It's what's filming this. It's the Panasonic Lumix G9 Mark II. And I'm learning it. I'm learning where certain things are in the menus, I'm learning where certain buttons are, and that's an important part of getting a new camera. And of course I have hired the FM, but I think actually having the camera in the hand is handy for building muscle memory and just being able to learn where things are. The Mark I of this camera, the original G9, I can operate blindfolded in the dark. It's kind of the same thing. Because of that, I didn't miss shots when I was out and about. I wasn't stumbling around in menus trying to find a specific setting. Just having time with your camera helps out a lot with that. Everyday carry is a phrase that's kind of associated with pocket notebooks and multi-tools and torches. But to me, everyday carrying a camera literally means just taking a camera out with you wherever you go. I made a video just under a year ago on my everyday carry camera setup, and it's changed a bit in terms of what I carry and don't carry, but what stayed the same is the bag. This is a low pro slingshot. It's the smallest one they make, and for me, it comfortably holds a camera body, a few lenses, and I mean, I can even stick a pocket tripod and a GoPro in it if I really need. And that bag genuinely goes with me anywhere. If I'm going into town, the bag comes with me. If I'm going just on a walk to the river, the bag comes with me. The whole idea is that the camera is always there ready to go. I can just take a photo of something if I want to. And that bag in particular, what I like about it is that you can just sling it across yourself and then you can take your camera in and out very handily and then you can put it back on your back. It's the sling shot. But what do you actually shoot when you have a camera with you every day? I call it walkabout photography or everyday travel photography. I was on holiday a while ago in Spain and I caught myself just taking a photo of a window. Like, it was just a window when you think about it. If you live in the south of Spain, you probably see this type of window a lot and it's really boring and common, much like how this window I'm in front of is quite common and boring to me. And over the holiday, I found myself photographing what people who actually live there probably thought were quite mundane things, just vehicles at the side of the road, street lamps, buildings. And when I got home, I was reviewing my images, because that's really important too, and I got thinking, hang on a minute, I live in the west of Ireland. It's absolutely beautiful here. Maybe what I think are kind of mundane everyday things aren't actually that mundane. So when I go out with my camera, I try and put myself in that tourist mindset. Now, if you live in an urban area, this probably falls under street photography, and depending on how you define street photography, even if you're not in an urban area, it might fall under it. But I just feel a lot of photographers won't take an image if the light's not good. They won't take a picture if maybe there's too many people around what they want to take the photo of. And I think if you get past those restrictions we place upon ourselves, you can find compositions and have fun taking photos. A big kind of revelation I had was that not every photograph I take has to be put in my portfolio. Not every photograph I take has to be printed to A1 size and put on display for everyone to see. Sometimes I can take an image just to practice taking an image. Like, if you look at any other creative medium, music is one I have a lot of experience in. I'm a musician, I used to lecture music. Like, musicians practice, and they practice writing as well. If you talk to anyone who does writing creatively, they'll often just have journals full of ideas that'll never get used because they're practicing having those ideas. If you go out and you just take a picture of a bin, well, I mean, you still took the photo. You were still there practicing your composition. You're practicing your camera settings, and when you get home and you edit the image, you're practicing editing. No one has to see the image. And you never know, maybe you'll end up with a really nice photo of a bin. And after you go out and you do this sort of everyday travel photography or walkabout photography, you might find that you're actually drawn to certain things. I found that I'm really drawn to life buoys. If I'm out by the coast or by a body of water and there's a life buoy, I generally take a photo of it. And I think it's because you have the bright color and the kind of man-made thing next to the natural space. So maybe after you go out for a while, you'll notice that you've kind of developed a bit of a theme as well. Photography, like a lot of media nowadays, has two sides. You have the technical side and you have the craft. The technical side is operating your camera, using the tool. It's using the right settings, and to an extent, editing is also very technical. Yeah, there's the creative side of it, but at the end of the day, you are operating a tool to do those things. And then you have the craft, the artistic side, the creative side. I think the craft is the most important part. How you would take the image. I shoot with the Micro Four Thirds system, so there's two camera brands I use, Olympus and Panasonic, mainly Panasonic. And how I would actually take the image from a creative standpoint does not change between the cameras, but operating the two of them, it's very different. If you're a beginner, you're probably going to change camera systems at some point. I moved from Canon full frame to Canon mirrorless, but the old Canon mirrorless, the EF-M mount, to Micro Four Thirds. So I was changing sensor size, and that has a few technical things that you have to be aware of, but at the end of the day, how I would actually take an image didn't change. Using your camera as often as you can is going to teach you the technical side really well too. I know a lot of people will jump to YouTube and they'll look up a tutorial for their particular camera, or what I think is more kind of prominent these days is people will see a TikTok or an Instagram reel and someone will make a blanket statement that says don't shoot above ISO 1600 or else. And that's really bad advice because your camera might be able to shoot up to ISO 6400 without any noticeable noise, and even then you might still get a bit of extra range. And I think the only way to really know that is to go out and shoot with your camera and try the different settings. I recently picked up a fisheye lens and it's a lot of fun. And yeah, I could go and like watch videos on how to compose a shot with fisheye and that kind of stuff, but actually going out with it and shooting has been great for me to learn how the distortion works and just how fun it is to shoot with a fisheye. All of this extends to editing too. I'm not really going to cover editing because the different softwares are actually very different. Yeah, editing is very technical in terms of what this slider does versus this slider, but it's a very creative process too, and it's very subjective, and one edit isn't necessarily correct as opposed to another. But what I like to do is, in the same vein as everyday photography, I like to edit a bit every day as well. Even if it's just 5 minutes, I'll kind of go to an image and I might re-edit it. And I'm starting to develop my own presets, my own Lightroom presets, and this is largely because I just, for a few minutes at the end of every day, I might just go and edit photos. I suppose in conclusion, it is literally just use your gear more. It's a bit of a long video just for that. I feel like people will say, oh, just go out and shoot, but they don't really, you know, offer anything besides that. And I think going out with a slight confine, like just using the one lens, or something my camera club does is every meeting we'll set a challenge and we have to take images under that challenge. So one from a while ago was like a singular tree, one before that was like astrophotography, and that's very fun too. I'm going to make a video at some point about joining a local camera club and why I think you should. So thank you very much for watching this week's video. I'm filming in a bit of a different space than normal because I got a new puppy. Her name is Daisy. She's very cute. Here's some pictures, but she cries a lot if I'm like talking in my room and she's like not in my room, and that's not great for video. So gotta keep Daisy happy. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back to filming as normal soon and a lot more projects coming on the way. So cheers. Slán.